The release of new guidelines around therapies for people suffering from ME and chronic fatigue syndrome has been put on hold as NICE, the National Institute for Health and Care Excellence, says it can't agree on a document that's supported by all.
Today we have another example where patients have been dismissed, ignored and not believed.
I've been Vice Chair of the NICE committee that has produced the revised guideline on ME/CFS over the past 3 years through consensus agreement in committee and fully compliant with NICE's rigorous processes.
I want to know, did NICE come under pressure to pull these guidelines because of medical vested interests?
The prevailing view in some quarters that ME is a psychological disease is causing untold harm, including to children and young people who are being forced to accept treatments which are damaging to them, and their parents who are sometimes accused of abuse.
I looked on the NICE website and I read that this was an illness that would get better with cognitive behavioural therapy and graded exercise. And I thought, well, that's not what I've got, because I'm mentally extremely strong and exercise makes me worse. So I completely disregarded that diagnosis for myself for a good 3 months.
I think the cardinal parts of the illness are what's called post-exertional malaise, where any kind of effort, physical but also mental, makes all of the symptoms worse, typically about 12 to 48 hours afterwards.
When you look at the patient perspective, post-exertional malaise is described as a debilitating crash following minimal exertion that can take weeks to recover from.
And this is a worsening of illness under almost any type of stressor. Physical, cognitive, emotional stressors can all trigger relapse with this illness. The duration of the effect can be days, weeks, months, and sometimes forever. So sometimes people do not recover.
The recommendation of graded exercise has caused untold physical damage to thousands of people. In fact, a 2018 survey found that 89% of ME sufferers experienced worsened symptoms after increasing activity.
The first graded exercise program I tried was early on in my illness, and it made me much worse. Most people I know with ME have exactly the same experience with it.
I had to walk, and you had to increase walking by 10% each week. And as I began to get sicker and sicker, I was told, this is the moment where you push through and you get better. I started the clinic being able to walk about 4 minutes each day. I ended and I needed a wheelchair.
And then I was given graded exercise therapy, and after that I was completely bedridden for 2 years. I was really sick. So graded exercise therapy can actually be harmful.
Shouldn't graded exercise therapy be removed as a treatment option even before the NICE guidelines are reviewed? Given the evidence that people are being harmed, isn't there a possibility that a future court could compensate ME sufferers, given we know that evidence, the Minister knows that evidence, and medical professionals know that evidence?
NICE have reviewed the evidence for graded exercise therapy and found it to be low or very low quality. New biomedical evidence and NICE commissioned patient surveys have led the new draft guidelines to warn do not offer people with ME/CFS any therapy based on exercise, generalised physical activity or exercise programmes, or even specialised graded exercise therapy, as this is showing harm to patients.
The results were published in The Lancet in 2011. The media reported that all ME sufferers had to do to recover was exercise. However, the report was immediately questioned by patient community. How could exercise, the very thing that was known to worsen symptoms, actually help? Calls to publish the raw data, basic protocol and good research were ignored. Queen Mary University spent an estimated £200,000 on keeping this data hidden. Finally, after a long battle, patients won a court order to force the PACE authors to release this data.
There's a huge amount of evidence, Mr. Rossendale, from the science community, from very eminent people, questioning the whole PACE trials, their methodology, the evidence they used, the way they treated the patients.
They didn't analyse their planned outcomes, which is critical in research. They lowered their defined targets simply because it was failing. Reanalysis of the PACE study has shown minimal benefit to these treatments. And indeed, as my honourable friend from Glasgow North West said, some people got worse and were still classified as a success.
I think when the full details of the trial become known, this will be put down as one of the biggest medical scandals of the 21st century.